Welcome inside episode 509 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Piller out in Golden, BC. And the Ottawa Senators had two different scripts over the weekend, but the exact same result in a pair of losses.
Yeah, Ross, an absolute barn burner in Arizona, an 8-5 loss with back and forth efforts, and then a much closer game out in Vegas right after, a 2-1 loss that was decided in the final seconds of the game.
We'll recap both those games, discuss Matt Murray's latest trip to the injured reserve, and then change to a little positivity. The Belleville Senators get a win on Saturday night, and Tyler Kleven scores the Penrose Cup clinching goal. So we'll touch on a few prospect notes as well. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. And now let's start the show. This is the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.
Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Senators your first listen on this Monday, March 7th. And Pilsy, Matt Murray has just made his 7th trip to the injured reserve in his time as an Ottawa Senator.
Yeah, it has been an absolute struggle for Matt Murray to stay healthy with his time with the Ottawa Senators. And it's so unfortunate, Ross, because when he is healthy and he gets a good stretch of games in, he's the goalie the Ottawa Senators paid for in the trade and extending him with that big contract. But the issue is, and I mean, the famous saying goes, the best ability is availability, right? And if you're a guy like Matt Murray, that sure, when you're here, you're great, but you don't know when you can be counted on. And this isn't to put it on Matt Murray. If you have health issues, you have health issues. But if you're the Ottawa Senators, you need to put this into your plans. And you got Forsberg, pending UFA, lighting it up, absolutely rock solid night in and night out. And Philippe Daoust, who once again is getting the short end of the stick, Ross. He finally gets a couple game stretches in Belleville, and now he's back shipped up and just sitting on the bench. So it's a tough situation all around, and the Ottawa Senators are going to have to figure out how they're going to manage this.
How would you manage this? Because at some point, you just have to call a spade and say, I can't rely on him to be there game in and game out. You know how I feel about him not playing back-to-backs or 2 out of 3 games. It seems like they're already so hesitant to work around a schedule that fits his, that then when he does get in the net, and these aren't like pulled groins, it doesn't seem like it's a conditioning thing. It's just at some point, unluckiness turns into just injury prone. Like, you got to just kind of call it what it is.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't care what side of this argument you're on. It's obvious that he's injured, unhealthy quite often. And the neck issue, that's a tough one, because no matter, even if you're not an athlete, like if you have neck issues, it can easily be tweaked and aggravated, and you don't want to be playing if you don't feel like at 100%, because then it turns from a tweak to a major injury. So from that standpoint, I can understand it. But if you're the Ottawa Senators, I mean, they have such a tough decision to make at this trade deadline, because Forsberg's value couldn't get any higher. It's as bright as this sun in beautiful golden BC. But sure, the trade value is good. But then what are you getting? Prospects and picks that maybe can help you in a few years? You need a goalie now, and you've got one. And Philippe Daoust, I really think it's unfair. Like, this is the guy they protected in the expansion draft, and he's being treated like a pawn, kind of like, okay, we need you in Belleville here. Oh, no, Matt Murray's injured. We need you backing up back in Ottawa. And he just gets no consistency here. So that's not fair to him. I'm starting to lean more on the side that they should try to keep Forsberg. And I know we've seen time and time again, a hot backup comes in and the Sens reward him with a decent term and decent salary. But they need this insurance. And I'm not too confident that there's a veteran guy that they can just scoop up easily in free agency that can get the job done. Because look at the teams that have tried to do that, Ross. It doesn't work out. And now they're desperate at the trade deadline for a goalie like Anton Forsberg. And I think Forsberg seems to really like it here. He's getting his opportunity. He's playing well under DJ Smith and the rest of this team. And the defense hasn't exactly been amazing. So he's really done a good job. So part of me thinks you got to keep Forsberg here because I don't think Gustafsson is fully ready to take on a 1B type role with Matt Murray. You can't expect to have him as your number one starter and then a traditional backup. It's just not going to work. Like we mentioned, the stats are there. He can't be fully relied on, unfortunately. And the Senators are going to have a pretty good insurance plan.
Right now, he's missed 8 games this season so far. 9, I guess, if you include last night. Wasn't able to back up. Not like he would start. No way. It was a back-to-back. So there's absolutely no chance that Matt Murray would go in both those games. But it started with an illness where he missed the home opener, missed the first game of the year, and a couple more. Then he comes in, gets the neck injury against the New York Rangers, has to leave that game. Then he gets COVID, misses 3 more games. Then in January, after getting called back up, he gets another illness, misses 2 more games. Then takes a knee from Sundqvist with St. Louis, misses another game. Now, undisclosed once again after taking a cross-check from Nikita Zaitsev in the crease. And at some point, man, like what is the play long term? He's owed $15 million over the next 2 years. It's like, I don't envy Pierre Dorion, but at the same time, you made your bed, you have to lay in it right now, because I don't know where they're going to go, but it's going to be a fascinating storyline because Anton Forsberg was again fantastic last night, gave his team a chance to win. Another 40 save performance. He's had enough of those for a career in a season right now, and he has 4 wins in that situation, but unfortunately last night was unable to be the case. So we'll keep you posted when we hear more about Matt Murray on Twitter at Sens Central, LockedOn.Senators on Instagram. We feel for the guy. Trust me, like it's not us cheering on injury. Never would do that. But at the same time, looking at this through a long-term lens, we always ask our Sens Central citizens, who's going to be the coach and the goalie the next time they win a playoff game? I don't know if Matt Murray will be healthy the next time they win a playoff game. So you need to get reliability in goal. And I love the quote that you said there. That's what JR told us about Pierre Maguire, having him on the show for all those years. The best ability is availability. But we'll see how that storyline unfolds. Fascinating as it is, as we are exactly, Pillsy, 2 weeks away from the NHL trade deadline. We're going to have a ton of extra coverage for you there. So stay tuned for that. Locked On Senators on YouTube is where you can subscribe to the show and wherever you download your audio podcast. But Pillsy, let's get into Anton Forsberg's brilliance. As a goalie-friendly show, that was a fun game to watch last night, with Robin Lehner also making 39 saves for the Vegas Golden Knights, including one on Adam Gaudette that I still can't believe he pulled down with the glove. What was your overall impression? I know you had Forsberg as your standout in last night's postcast.
Yeah, he absolutely was a standout. And interesting note, Ross, sure, this game is disappointing and it sucks to lose it, but Ian Mendez mentioned in his article, this is the first game under DJ Smith in the Smith era that the Senators gave up 40 shots and also had 40 shots. So that's the thing. You're going up against a Vegas team that has a lot of firepower, but they were right there with them. They just faced literally the greatest goalie to play up against the Ottawa Senators ever in former Senator Robin Lehner. And yeah,
10-0-3.
And the save percentage, though, that's the one that gets me, Ross. A 950 save percentage. That is insane. And yeah, he had a great save on Gaudette and Sanford. That glove save he had on Sanford, because he was sliding the other way. His body momentum was there, and then he just is able to get a glove on it and flash the leather there. So you got to tip your cap to both goalies in this game. But the Vegas Golden Knights, they've got those finishers, right? Like Marcia Show. Holy crap, was that one hell of a goal. You could put Andrei Vasilevsky in net right there, still getting beat. You can't get a better wrist shot on a breakaway than that. He just snapped it top cheese. And then Jack Eichel, another Sens killer. The most points he has up against any franchise in the NHL. Believe it or not, it's the Ottawa Senators, and he added to that, with a game-winning power play goal with 6 seconds left. So, this is where the Ottawa Senators, they can play hard. D. Smith can have good systems, good structure, good strategy. But when you've got finishers like the Vegas Golden Knights in a close game, that's what's going to decide it. And we don't talk about the refs on the show. So not the refs calling bad penalties is not what decided that game.
Never. Kendrick Nicholson, if you're listening to this, figure it out, pal. People going in, doxing him where his hometown is. They're like, he's from Leafs territory. He's a Leafs fan. I'm not going to go that far. I just think that he might not be that great at his job with what you saw against Florida. And then It's just the fact they use the same refs from the game against Florida a week later. Anyways, we're fired up about it in the postcast. So once you're
we've
done
cooled
listening
down a little now
to today's show, we slept on it. You wake up, the sun shines, you're in the mountains. It's all good, okay? Yeah. But that to say, check out the postcast if you want a fired up instant reaction to last night's game. That being said, 1 goal was the difference against Vegas. Goals were the difference between Arizona and Ottawa. We're going to get into that, but first, Pilsy, we've got new sponsor alert. You've got a word from our friends at Athletic Greens.
New sponsor alert indeed, Ross. And I'm so stoked about this sponsorship because this is a company and a product that I've been seeing advertised and I wanted to try. And now I'm going to get the chance because they are partners with the Locked On Podcast Network. And guys, this is a product you can use literally every day, and you should. Because Athletic Greens, if you don't have the time, if you want better gut health, more energy, optimized immune system, those all sound like great things to me, you need to try AG1. What is this stuff, maybe you're asking? All right, with just one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins. Count them all up if you got the time. 75 of them. There's whole food-sourced superfoods, gotta love that, probiotics, and a whole lot more to get your day started off right. There's so many positives to trying AG1. I can't even list them all off, but let's start with all the health facts. It's lifestyle friendly. Whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, you can use this. It contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything, while still tasting good. You love to hear that. Supports better sleep and recovery, supports mental clarity and alertness. It's one of the things with all of the best things. Athletic Greens uses the best of the best products. That's how they have such a good result, with constant third-party testing, using latest science, and all of that. You got to try it out today, guys. Right now, it's your time to reclaim your health. If you're going on an epic snowboard trip like me, you want to make sure your body is ready. And that's what I'm doing with AG1. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. That's perfect if you're going on a trip and exercising and getting outdoors. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL network. Again, guys, it's athleticgreens.com/NHL network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutrition insurance. It's Athletic Greens with AG1. Check it out today, guys.
All right, Pilsy. So the Ottawa Senators fall twice this weekend, and I hazard to say that it was a perfect tank loss on Sunday night where you battle hard, you think you've got a chance at least for overtime, and then you come out with a fat 0 in points for the standings. And don't look now, but during this current stretch where the Senators have just 1 win in their last handful of games, I don't have the exact number up, but it's getting
5
long.
losses.
5 straight losses, 4 straight on the road. They've got 1 more on this trip at St. Louis tomorrow night. They're back. They're back in the bottom 5. So if you're looking at all you draft freaks out there, we're going to have to get back into draft season sooner or later. But right now, I'm more concerned about what I'm seeing from the guys who are on the roster. And in some cases, the guys who are supposed to be a part of the future, at least the guys who are signed for long-term contracts. Like, I ripped number 22 on last night's postcast, and I think deservedly so. We've probably gone too easy on him in the past, but 26 we've had some trouble with here, and now you're looking. And one positive, though, Tim Stützle with 3 points over the weekend. He was flying in both games.
Yeah, I thought Tim Stützle had a good weekend too, and it was great to see Brady Tkachuk get that goal on the power play against Vegas. Colin White with the assist, and I thought Colin White looked nice on that first power play unit. Obviously, when Batherson comes back, he's going to take his rightful spot there, but that was a nice little boost up against Vegas. And yeah, Ross, are we going to get into that Arizona game? Because that was absolutely wild. The Sens go down 4-0. And at that point, though, it sounds crazy, but I didn't think they were out of it. And rightfully so, because they storm all the way back to take a 5-4 lead. And then Arizona surges all the way back and wins this game 8-5. Nick Schmaltz looking like Wayne Gretzky out there with 7 points in one game.
Yeah, so I just checking out NHL stats, and Nick Schmaltz had 7 points in one game, and the next best for combined points since Friday was Dylan Strome, who had 4 in 2 games. So he's putting up numbers. That was a franchise record for Arizona, which, I mean, say what you want. Maybe it doesn't mean as much for that type of franchise, but at the same time, kind of embarrassing for Ottawa to give up a 7 spot, the most points in a single game since Sam Gagner had 8 back in 2010.
Yeah, that was tough. And the thing is, the Senators, they dominated that game in the faceoff dot. They dominated in shots. Like, there was so much that was going their way. It was just a couple of sloppy defensive plays that Arizona was able to capitalize on. Yeah.
They gave up 8 goals.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, more than a couple. That's
because, I mean, and say what you want, like, you can't compliment the goaltending when you give up 8, but I can't really pick apart Matt Murray's game. Like, a lot of those goals, except for what turned out to be the game winner, which was absolutely horrendous, playing the puck like that. But outside of that, like, that's where it's like you got to be lucky to be good, and I feel like Matt Murray's neither.
I mean, yeah, like, I can't stand here and say after giving up 8 goals that it wasn't entirely on him, but there was a lot of plays where it's like the Senators are missing passes. They couldn't make tape-to-tape passes work in their own zone, and that makes it hard for Matt Murray. But yeah, that goal where he tries to play the puck, and then he was so out of it, he tried the Aaron Dell. He was going for some body contact there, and he just knew he was done.
It was ridiculous. And then if you look at a team that was trying to give up this game, Pilsy, the giveaways in the Arizona game, the Senators had 15, like anywhere between 10 and 20 seems like a pretty average game, I'd say, for giveaways as a team. The Coyotes had 36 giveaways in that game on Saturday. That is absurd. They had 4 guys with 4 or more giveaways just themselves, and they still managed to win 8-5. Like, if you're looking at something to build off of, you're like, oh, 5 straight goals. Okay, looking good. But when you take away that, I mean, you give up 4 in a row twice, and it was a discombobulated effort for the Ottawa Senators on Saturday.
Absolutely, yeah. And I don't know about you, Ross, but my wallet's a little bit lighter after that one, because live betting was an absolute thrill with those numbers, with the odds that the Sens had down 4-0, and even when they were making their comeback. And I really felt good about it. When Nick Paul scored that goal to go up 5-4, I thought, all right, we can put a cap on this. I'll collect my winnings and we'll move on. But I should have guessed that a game this insane was not over yet.
Who's your star of the weekend? We do our Sens Central standouts for each game, but after 2 in a row, who stood out for you over the course of the weekend, taking away the goaltenders?
I thought Thomas Chabot had a good weekend. I mean, he had 3 assists in that game against Arizona, if I'm not mistaken. And then once again, in last night's game, he's relied upon heavily, as I'm just looking at the ice time here for him.
He had 3 assists in just over 2 minutes, Pilsy.
Yeah, no kidding. And then last night's game, Thomas Chabot does what Thomas Chabot does. 26 minutes and 17 seconds of ice time, 3 shots, 2 hits, 4 blocks. So that's a nice stat line for the D-man.
How about Parker Kelly's weekend? Because he had those 2 goals, which, I mean, you always appreciate, but this guy is a murderer out there. I mean, 8 hits in 2 games there, 7 against Vegas. So you just see him buzzing around, and he doesn't get a whole lot of ice time. He was last among forwards against Vegas, but he stood out to me over the course of the weekend, and we already touched as well on Tim Stützle. But did you hear Brady Tkachuk's post-game and even his intermission interview in Arizona? Like, he seems like a defeated dude right now, and it is very tough to watch.
Well, I mean, Ross, look at Brady Tkachuk's NHL career. It's been brutal. Like, the teams he's been on have finished either dead last or second dead last, and now they're third dead last only because there's another team in the league. Like, it's tough if you're Brady, and he's done everything the right way. He's got his long-term deal. He's the captain. He leads this team into battle night in and night out, but with injuries, with goaltending struggles, with the D-core not being able to be consistent, there's just things that are out of his control that continue to pile up these losses for him. And the Tkachuk family, we know it. They're a competitive bunch, and they don't sit well with losing night in and night out. Even if the effort's good, it gets tiring. So, yeah, if you're Brady Tkachuk, like, I don't blame him for his post-game press conference where he's just like, yeah, it sucks. Like, what do you want the guy to say? Like, he's just been losing over and over and over again.
Yeah, I got the numbers here since he joined the Ottawa Senators. How many wins do you think they have in 264 games?
264. I don't think it's 100.
Correct.
Oh.
1, 2, 3, 4. 4 teams have less than 105 if you count Seattle, who has
I'll
17.
go 89.
Close. 92 wins in
Okay,
265 games. Only the Detroit Red Wings, who have sorry, did I say 92? I meant 96. Detroit has 92.
Okay.
They're last among teams who have played in all those seasons. Of course, Seattle, the anomaly there, only playing 58 games in that time frame. But even if you go by points percentage, Seattle's still at the bottom. So, we're comparing the Ottawa Senators 5 years into a rebuild with the Seattle Kraken. So, that just kind of tells you where things are right now. Discouraging, as the Senators have now played 55 games, one less than they played all of last year. And the numbers do not compare favorably at all. We're going to touch on that a little bit more. We also have the Belleville Senators weekend to recap. And I already mentioned it, but Sens prospects doing big things in the college ranks. But first, a quick word from our friends at Built Bar. Now, I know that New Year's resolutions are likely in the past by the time March rolls around, but not this year. Stick to your resolutions. Have you tried Built Bar Puffs? If you haven't, you're missing out on one of Built Bar's best tasting bars. The Puffs are the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy. They're not just a protein bar, they're a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. All Built Bars are 100% real chocolate. They're low in calorie, they're high in protein. You can replace your candy bars with these and feel good about what you're eating as what you think is a treat. So go to built.com right now and scroll down to the macros chart. You can see it yourself how most Built Bars contain 130 calories, only 4 grams of sugar, only 4 carbs, and 17 grams of protein. At Built Bar, they're all about the taste. They make it delicious first, but then they figure out how to make it healthy. I don't know how, but they pull it off every single time. So go to built.com, use promo code LOCK15, and you'll get 15% off your next order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com.
And Ross, we also have a word from another favorite sponsor. It's BetOnline.net. It's our presenting title sponsor. You gotta love them, and we love them, and we think you will too. Head to BetOnline.net, and you can check out all the best odds, the best parlays, the best props, over, under, puck line, money line, three-way money line, anytime goal scorers. They've got it all. And the NHL season is heating up here. Trade deadline is very close and teams are battling, so every game means that much more, and it can mean that much more to you too if you get in on the action. Get off the sidelines and get into the action. BetOnline is the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. It's not just hockey, it's basketball, boxing, UFC. Anything you want, they got it. So head to the website today or use your mobile device. If you're at the game and you feel like boots on the ground scouting, you've got a beat on how this game's going to go, you can do it right on your phone. So learn more about the trends and head to the action at betonline.net, where the game starts.
All right, Pilsy, can I give you a little history lesson?
Take me to school, Ross.
On this day in 1925,
I remember it well.
Senators rookie goaltender Alec Connell recorded his 7th consecutive shutout, a NHL record that doesn't still stand time. Someone has 7 shutouts in a row.
Wow.
Says an NHL record at the time here. You know what his nickname was?
No.
The Ottawa Fireman.
Nice.
Don't ask why.
And Ross, I'm pretty sure he got his pads from a therapist off his couch. Doesn't it look like those couches that you always see in the movies, people lying down on talking to their therapist?
Oh
He's
yeah.
got the front and back cushions there that he just strapped onto his legs. And look at the I was gonna say glove and blocker, but look at the gloves that he's
Outrageous.
sporting there. You gotta love that.
All-time hat too. What a guy.
That's his bucket. That's his helmet.
1925. Wow.
The
Jesus,
roaring
coming up on
20s.
100-year, coming in on the 100-year anniversary of that feat for Senators legend Alex Connell. I feel like they should be playing the Canadian Heritage Moment background music as we talk about that. But now let's get to some national pride for Nodak in the NCHC. Tyler Kleven. What a wrister from the far side. Gets it past Omaha's goalie. They end up sharing the Penrose Cup, which is kind of strange. You'd think there'd be a tiebreaker because Denver won the next night. So they tie with Denver, but are they cutting the trophy in half? I don't know.
And
they
does Denver get a
skate
trophy
around?
presentation? Because it was pretty sweet seeing Nodak carry around that Penrose Cup.
Very strange.
Imagine drinking beer out of that thing. You could put a keg in that.
You could easily fit a keg in that. That's one of the coolest trophies. I'm convinced that the emoji on iPhones of a trophy is based on that one or vice versa. They looked identical. That huge bowl at the top with the big handles on either side. That's a sharp trophy. So credit to North Dakota. 8-0 without Jake Sanderson since he left for Beijing. Like that in itself deserves some stick taps. Wait, who was it that stepped up as the number one defenseman while he was gone?
Tyler Kleven, of course.
Oh, damn. So he doesn't only hit people and have bad pivots. He actually is able to get pucks on net, score some big goals, top plus player on their team all season long. What an absolute stud. So this weekend, they've got a best 2 out of 3. The matchup is still to be determined, so we'll touch on that later this week. But love seeing Nodak prevail in a year that they were supposed to rebuild. But as Christian Wolanin once famously said, Nodak doesn't rebuild, they reload, and they're showing that once again. So big weekend coming up for them. Big weekend coming up for Belleville, where I'll be in the broadcast booth with David Foote for that AHL game against Manitoba. 2 of them actually, Friday and Saturday. So stay tuned for some behind-the-scenes coverage of that at Sens Central on Twitter. All right, Pillsy, but Belleville's past weekend, they had their chance at Arundel, and it turns out Arundel's actually a pretty good AHL goalie.
Yeah, he definitely is a decent AHL goalie, and I mean, congrats for being a decent AHL goalie.
Still has the Buffalo Sabres logo on his pads, buddy. You could probably switch those in for some Rochester Americans colors. I don't think
it's probably safe to do that. Yeah, Arundel's getting maybe buy a house in Rochester. Talk from his coach. Go to his coach there. You know, we gotta beat up on Arundel because
Drake's still out
there. Exactly.
I'm actually getting more and more pissed at him as the injury lingers on longer.
Yeah, because if you insert Drake Batherson into the lineup for a bunch of these games, these 1-goal games, could be a very different outcome. And I know that's obviously maybe a bit of a stretch, but he's their top point getter, like
top player.
One goal. That's something that Drake Batherson, especially on the power play, can be a big help with.
100%. So no Drake Batherson, but to get back to the AHL, Arundel was pretty solid, I will say, in the game I watched against Rochester there on Friday night. So they were able to prevail there, although it was a close game. I thought that at one point Belleville was looking like they were going to make a nice little comeback effort, and it ends up not going their way, but they were able to bounce back at least on Saturday night. So they get to overtime on Friday, first and foremost, and I thought even just getting there was pretty impressive, despite giving up a third period lead.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, up against the Rochester Americans, they've got a lot of games in hand, but the AHL uses points percentage. So being able to take this game to overtime is at least a positive here, but it's too bad they couldn't get the win. And Ross, the power play,
outshot after 2 periods, Pillsy, the shots were 26 for Belleville and 7 for Rochester.
Yeah, I'm looking at that now. Wow. And 0 for 6 for Rochester's power plays and 0 for 5 for Belleville. So that ultimately doesn't decide that game. Philippe Gustafson, not a lot of shots, so it's tough to say whether that one's on him. But the real thing, Ross, is no Uncle Deli goal. So that's an automatic.
He had an apple.
But you need the goal for the automatic win, and there was no Uncle Deli goal in the first game. However, the second game, Uncle Deli gets the game winner in a 6-5 game, and that was a barn burner, much like the Arizona game up in the NHL. And you gotta, that's the classic Belleville hockey, Ross. Like, how many 6-5 games did we see in our time working for the team? So many.
So Michael Del Zotto not only had that goal, which set a franchise record for most goals in a single season by a defenseman, he also had 2 assists. He's up to 26 points in 22 games in Belleville. It's a ridiculous pace, and it's being extended and more impressive as the games played mounts. This guy is a complete wagon in the AHL. It's like you can't help but laugh, but geez, like what's I mean, we say it every time, but it has to come into your mind. Like, at what point does an NHL team come calling and be like, we can fix him?
I mean, the Leafs rebuilt Alex Galchenyuk, so if they can do that, they can certainly rebuild Michael Del Zotto. I mean, hey, if you're Florida or Tampa, I mean, he would hop on a plane real quick to double as an NHL player and a real estate agent. So that would work out nicely for everyone.
Yeah, it certainly would. So that win, I mean, it's more so than just the 2 points, which, I mean, you want to see in general. But now, all of a sudden, they're not as close as they were to Syracuse, right? We were saying how big those games were before. They still have 3 games in hand on Syracuse, and they have 3 more wins. So Syracuse has a ton of overtime losses. That's why they're still tied in points. And again, 3 games in hand for Belleville, but having that 3-game win advantage is going to be huge if it does come to a tiebreaker situation. And with Rochester earning 2 points on the weekend as well, they jump up. They're in second place in the division now. So still lots of time left, but this next stretch is crucial for Belleville. And the fact they have never played a playoff game in franchise history, that's wild. It's wild. They should have had it last year, but again, no playoffs for the AHL. Should have had it the year before. They were first place in the entire conference, but then, of course, COVID comes and takes care of that. So it's just too bad, and you got to hope they get that this year.
And that's the thing. I think it's so important. And Pierre Dorion talked about it the 2020 season in the offseason, saying the biggest problem was that Belleville wasn't able to go on that run, because that would have created so much positive momentum and even more chemistry between guys like Josh Norris, Drake Batherson, Alex Formanton. I mean, the list goes on. So, yeah, if you're the Belleville Senators, or if you're the Ottawa Senators franchise, I think obviously the NHL team comes first, but I think you should be putting a lot of emphasis in making sure this Belleville team gets somewhere, just so that this franchise can have a glimpse of what it's like to play in meaningful hockey games.
Yeah, and you hope that they're going to be reinforced with Jake Sanderson, with Shane Pinto, potentially Ridley Greig afterwards. And let's end off with Ridley Greig, because my God, this guy is such a stud in the WHL. Now tied for first in points per game in the entire league, 1.65 points per game. He had another 4 points this weekend, including 2 goals and an assist on Sunday, 7 shots on goal. Pilsy, in his last 3 games, he has 19 shots on goal. This guy just puts pucks on net. He's a great playmaker as well. The haters will say he takes too many penalties. I only see 2 minor penalties in the last 5 games. So is he cleaning it up? Maybe. I mean, he's always going to play with that edge. That's what separates him and makes him the player he is. But every time you refresh his page at Elite Prospects, it's like the lotto number when you see at Vegas when they're looking at the jackpot. It just keeps on rising. That's what it is with Ridley Greig's point totals. This guy is just too good for the WHL. And another reason, talk about a nice little segue to get back to AHL. The further they go, the more likely we get to see Ridley play against AHL competition this season, which is what he needs for his development. And especially, he got his 7 games in the AHL last year. He got some preseason in the NHL this year. Sick goal. That being said, I want him to go in being like, oh, I got to get stronger to compete against these guys. I want him to at least get another taste of pro hockey before his off season, because right now it's man amongst boys out there against the competition in the WHL.
Yeah, I agree. I think the AHL right now is the perfect place for Ridley Greig, because, and you talked about maybe some of those undisciplined penalties. the rule book's a little different going from junior to the AHL. So I think a lot of those penalties will be okay. And it's more just physical hockey play rather than coming down hard because, I mean, they're just kids, right? So you're trying to really limit the intense physicality there. So I think Ridley Greig is going to do great in the AHL. If you listen to what Troy Mann had to say about him in that short stint, he was pretty impressed. So add another year of development onto that, add more size, strength, everything. He's ready. And yeah, if we get to see Ridley Greig, Shane Pinto, and Jake Sanderson in Belleville playoff series with all those guys, and Crooker, don't forget Crooker, he's coming back if they make playoffs, that's for sure. That would be just an absolute treat. So that's what we're cheering for sure.
Do you think Sens' 6th round pick in 2020, Philippe Daoust, do you think he's happy to be back in the QMJHL or what? This guy is just lighting it up.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it was a little too early to expect him to take on a role in Belleville. And there's so many other guys down there, like Uncle Deli, there's Lassie, JBD. So they've got a full decor here. They don't need to rush a guy. So I think it was a good call putting him back to junior.
Pillsy, I love you. We've been talking about a lot of guys, but we got Daoust playing left wing here, buddy.
Oh, man, I always think he's a defenseman. I don't know why. I get him and Gannett mixed up here.
Yeah,
but
no, that's fair. A couple Frenchmen. Hey, all have
backtracking.
We'll have a laugh
the same. Yeah, I can afford that. I'm a little tired.
Yeah, 100%. You're still +5 on the night, buddy.
Okay, good. The same thing holds true, though. I think he wasn't quite ready to be in the AHL, and he gets a better opportunity in junior.
The irony is we almost saw him what we thought was his first AHL goal in his first AHL game. They take it away from him. Turns out he didn't get his stick on it in Laval in that game, and then he didn't score a goal at all in 15 games. And remember, he wasn't even signed, and they have to sign him by June. I'm assuming they will. They like him enough to play him in Belleville to start. That was on an ATO, and then they're like, okay, you're not ready. He goes back down. St. John is a complete wagon, by the way. These are their last 4 games. They won 10-2 on Sunday, 7-3 on Saturday, 7-1 on Wednesday, and 8-1 last Sunday. Pretty decent team. And now you're looking at a guy in Philippe Daoust who has 20 points in 14 games. And yes, it is the QMJHL. They hand out points like tickets for the game. It's unbelievable how much offense there is in that league. But talk about feeling good about yourself and getting some extra confidence. And St. John is hosting the Memorial Cup, so we know we're going to see him late. So he will not be going back to Belleville. That's fair to say.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's okay. Like, definitely, especially if you get Ridley Greig and Shane Pinto and Crooker back in the mix, they'll be just fine.
100%. Way to get
because
a couple.
Because Daoust is a forward. Yeah, exactly.
There you go. 1 assist for Tyler Boucher this weekend, but by all accounts had a great game. You can go check out @Laleem's Martian for all the clips of that one. Couple big hits as well. Anything else you want to get to, Pilsy, to end off today's show?
Next game is up against St. Louis here. Things did not go the Sens' way. Hopefully Zach Sanford can have a better revenge game, that's for sure. And I think, Ross, I don't know about you, and I don't know about the Sens, but I think they're going to be pretty happy to go home to some home cooking because this was a road trip from hell.
This was a road trip from hell, and we've heard that a couple times so far this season. The Sens return home for 5 straight games, and this might be, and I hesitate to say this, on a team that's lost 5 in a row. And if you go all the way back to that 2-0 loss against Pittsburgh, the Sens have 3 wins in their last 13 games.
Oh, no.
This is their homestand coming up. The last place Seattle Kraken, the Chicago Blackhawks, the Arizona Coyotes, the Columbus Blue Jackets, and the Philadelphia Flyers. A homestand doesn't get any easier than that.
No, it really doesn't. And Ross, an added bonus to all this, full capacity. So Sens fans, get to the CTC, let the boys know that, yeah, it's been rough, but they still got the fan support. And hey, just enjoy live hockey. I mean, doesn't get better than live hockey, especially if you can get a rowdy crowd and if you can get a couple good Sens wins. I really want the Sens to beat the Kraken in their first game. I think that would be a nice touch to get things started back at home.
Yeah, it would set the tone for sure.
Yeah.
And they have to win at least 3 of those 5 games at home. Do it for the fans. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to put any predictions like that, Ross, because I've been burned in the past, and I don't want to mush this team because I'm the ultimate mush. So hope for the best. Hopefully everyone has fun.
Hey, tomorrow, hopefully we have an update on Matt Murray, because right now we know he's on IR, but DJ Smith hasn't spoken. They just had a back-to-back. They're off today. So tomorrow we'll record right around the time where DJ talks. Hopefully we have an update on Matt Murray. We'll preview another game against St. Louis. We'll look back at the last meeting because it wasn't too long ago. How did that one go wrong against the Blues, and what do the Senators need to do to get back into the win column? Because as much as, yes, the haters or the people who look at this more long-term will say, oh, it's good for the draft. Like, there's too many players that are supposed to be a part of the future that you don't want this losing culture to keep building. So what can the Senators do to get back in the win column? We'll touch on that tomorrow on Locked On Senators. You can follow the show on Twitter at Sens Central, Instagram LockedOn.Senators, our personal handles right underneath if you're watching on YouTube. For today, though, we say goodbye. Thank you for watching or listening. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.